All right, Raider Nation, let's dive into the quarterback conversation, with the Raiders potentially securing the 8th or maybe even the 10th overall pick. Depending on the outcome of tomorrow's game against the Chargers, there's a chance we could land a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. Both are highly regarded as the top quarterbacks in this year's draft. However, the reality is that they may not be available to us unless we decide to trade up, which could be a long shot. So, what does that leave us with? There are other quarterbacks in this draft class who deserve serious consideration. One name that stands out is Jackson Dart. If you haven't heard of him yet, it's time to start paying attention. Dart, the quarterback from Ole Miss, is starting to gain significant buzz in the draft world, and for good reason. He's a classic gunslinger and could be the perfect fit for the silver and black. Let's take a closer look at who Jackson Dart is, what makes him unique, and why he could be a solid choice for the Raiders. Dart isn't your typical college quarterback. He's a gamer, and it shows. Born in Kaysville, Utah, Dart began his college journey at USC before transferring to Ole Miss in 2022, where he's been making waves. At 6 feet 2 inches and 225 pounds, Dart has the ideal build for an NFL quarterback. But what truly sets him apart is his playing style. He's aggressive, fearless, and carries himself with a swagger that can't be taught. He has that it factor, the kind of confidence and poise you need to succeed at the highest level. Here's a fun tidbit. Dart actually played with our center, Jackson Powers Johnson, back in high school at Corner Canyon in Utah. In fact, Jackson Powers Johnson has even been spotted wearing Dart's shirt before games this season. It's clear they have a connection that could translate well if Dart ends up in silver and black. Jackson Dart has also received high praise from his former teammate, Jackson Powers Johnson, our center. The chemistry between a quarterback and a center is crucial, and having a lineman who already understands your tendencies could be a big advantage for the Raiders. This connection could give Dart a leg up in building an efficient, seamless relationship with the offensive line from day one. Now, let's take a closer look at Dart's 2023 stats. He threw for 3,364 passing yards, with 23 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. He also added 391 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns to his resume. His numbers in 2024 are even more impressive. 4,279 passing yards, 29 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, and an 86.4 QBR, which ranked 4th in the nation. He also picked up 450 rushing yards and 3 more rushing touchdowns. These stats showcase Dart's dual threat ability. He's not just a pocket passer. He can make plays with his legs and keep defenses guessing, making him a more dynamic and unpredictable player. As for Dart's draft projections, things are still up in the air. Currently, many draft analysts have him projected as a late day 2 or early day 3 pick. However, with his performance at the NFL Combine, it wouldn't be surprising to see him rise in the rankings. It's still early, January just kicked off, and the NFL draft won't happen until April, so there's plenty of time for things to shift. But for now, Dart is considered a solid day 2 or day 3 prospect. If the Raiders can snag him in that range, it seems like a no-brainer to take a chance on a quarterback with the upside and potential Dart brings to the table. After the NFL Combine, we often see players' draft stocks rise significantly. For Jackson Dart, it wouldn't be surprising if his combination of skills and intangibles catches the attention of NFL teams. It's not out of the question that Dart could climb into the first round, especially if his combine performance is strong. Every year, we see quarterbacks that initially flew under the radar shoot up the boards. A good example of this is Anthony Richardson, who was once seen as a third-round pick, but ended up being selected in the top 5. There are also plenty of NFL teams in need of a quarterback, so it's hard to believe Dart will slip too far down the draft. In my opinion, worst-case scenario, Dart would be a second-round pick. A lot of his final position will depend on how he performs in the combine and his pre-draft interviews. But assuming he's available in the second round, it would be an easy decision for the Raiders to grab him. If they're not looking to use a first-round pick on a quarterback, Dart could be a perfect second-round steal. However, something tells me that might be a bit too good to be true, and as the draft approaches, Dart could very well climb up the boards. So, why could Jackson Dart be a great fit for the Raiders? Well, there are several reasons. First, let's talk about his leadership. He has the kind of presence and attitude you want in a quarterback. Jackson Dart brings a lot of intangibles to the table, and that's exactly what the Raiders need in a quarterback. He has that moxie, that swagger, and the competitive drive that makes him stand out. You can feel the energy he brings to his team. He's the type of player who rallies the locker room, fights for every yard, and ultimately becomes the leader of the offense. That kind of leadership and passion is invaluable, especially for a franchise like the Raiders, who value intensity and grit. Another key trait that makes Dart an appealing option is his aggressiveness. He's a gunslinger, and that's something Raider Nation knows and loves. Dart isn't afraid to take risks, and he's not shy about pushing the ball down the field. This kind of play style aligns perfectly with the Raiders' legacy, especially when you consider how much the late, great Al Davis valued the vertical game. Dart embodies that fearless approach, unafraid to challenge defenses and make bold throws. He also has great chemistry with Jackson Powers Johnson, which could be a bonus if Dart were to join the Raiders. Having a center and quarterback who already have a solid connection could help with on-field communication and smooth transitions. However, there is one area of concern when it comes to Dart: the offensive system he played in at Ole Miss. Dart was under the guidance of Lane Kiffin, and while Kiffin's offense is quarterback-friendly, it relied heavily on one-read plays and predetermined reads. This means that Dart hasn't had to go through multiple progressions or make complex reads like he would need to in the NFL. That's something to keep in mind when considering how he might transition to a more advanced, multi-layered offensive scheme in the pros. Most of Dart's plays came from the shotgun, often using up-tempo offenses with trip formations, and this lack of varied reads might be a challenge at the next level. So, if the Raiders were to draft him, it's something they'd have to carefully develop in his game. When it comes to Jackson Dart, I think there are some considerations for the Raiders, especially with a defensive-minded head coach like Antonio Pierce. While Pierce has been doing great things with the defense, drafting a quarterback like Dart may not be ideal unless the team has a modern, offensive-minded coordinator in place. Dart thrives in up-tempo systems and shotgun formations, so it would be important for the Raiders to have an offensive coordinator who can build an offense around those strengths. Without that kind of offensive scheme, it might be difficult for Dart to translate effectively into a traditional pro-style or West Coast offense. If the Raiders were to bring in an offensive-minded head coach like Todd Monken, Cliff Kingsbury, or Ben Johnson, Dart could really flourish. These coaches are known for innovative, fast-paced offenses, and that's where Dart excels. However, it's also worth considering that Dart might not be ready to start immediately. It may be best for him to sit for a year, learning and developing, maybe under the guidance of a veteran quarterback or even competing with a fellow young quarterback like Aiden O'Connell. In any case, if the Raiders decide to draft Dart, they would need to fully commit to developing him. He's the kind of quarterback that could either become a game changer or fail to live up to expectations. There's not much middle ground with him. This is why the team would need to tailor its offensive scheme to his strengths. Look at Patrick Mahomes, for example. He came from a system at Texas Tech that wasn't known for preparing quarterbacks in a traditional sense, and yet he succeeded in the NFL. Like Dart, Mahomes didn't show a ton of tape where he was making perfect reads or going through progressions. But with the right coaching and system, he turned into one of the best. Dart could follow a similar path if the right infrastructure is in place. When Patrick Mahomes was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs, he ended up under the guidance of the perfect offensive-minded coach in Andy Reid. Reid tailored the offense to fit Mahomes' unique skill set, and that has paid off in spades for the Chiefs. If the Raiders decide to take a chance on Jackson Dart, they would need to approach it in a similar fashion, creating an offense that plays to Dart's strengths. While I'm not suggesting Dart will be the next Patrick Mahomes, he certainly has the qualities that make him an exciting prospect. He's mobile, can throw on the move, and isn't afraid to take deep shots down the field. In fact, when it comes to throws of 20 yards or more, Dart has been one of the best in the nation this past season. He ranked first in several major categories, including a 97.1 passing grade for 20-plus yard throws, with 15 completions for 623 yards and 9 touchdowns. His deep ball accuracy is impressive, and while some people may question his arm strength, I believe his arm is solid. It's nothing extraordinary, but it's on par with guys like Shedeur in terms of deep ball effectiveness. Dart might not have the strongest arm, but what he lacks in raw power, he makes up for with precision and poise. At the end of the day, Jackson Dart's upside is something that shouldn't be overlooked. For the Raiders, there's no guarantee that the top 2 quarterbacks will fall into their lap, so exploring other options is crucial. When you look at the draft class, Dart might just be the 3rd best quarterback, and I don't think it's a crazy thought if you view him that way. He could be a solid option in this year's draft, and Raider Nation should definitely consider him as a potential fit for the team. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think Jackson Dart would be a good pick for the Raiders? Let me know what you think. And if you're new to the channel and enjoy Raider-related content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video.